Yeah. Yes.
That'll be $8.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Top Fives with Don SILL. I'm your host, Don SILL, and we got a great top five for you today. It's the top 5 comedians who died before their time. And joining me today is comedian, satirist, and all-around funny man, Charles GOONAN, who may be best known for his online YouTube show called Tune Into GOONAN.
I have over 250 likes on Facebook, pretty nearly 1,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah. Never heard of you.
He also has a podcast called The Great GOONAN Podcast, so check that out as well. And please, everybody, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. We want to hear all your great feedback. But without further ado, here we go. Charles GOONAN and me with our top 5 comedians who died before their time. I keep trying to steer it back.
I didn't know that the $8 was happening. Go ahead, man. Well, this is good. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to also get your top 5. I want to do a top 5 of comedians who died before their time. So they died.
Oh, okay. My first one would be Jeff Bozy. He died before his time. Let me see. Rich Raider just caught whatever Jeff Bozy had, and he died too. Graz is still alive, but he's not a comedian. Let me see. That whole friggin' no, I can't say that. I was gonna say something really mean. Seriously, Dennis Wolfberg.
Oh man, great pick. Yeah, he was. Dennis Wolfberg was hilarious. He's one of the first guys.
Nobody remembers him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am 42 years old and never has anyone requested pictures of my colon before. I asked him if he wanted wallet size or an 8x10 glossy.
I remember I cried tears watching, because at first you think he's shticky because it was 80s boom comic, and then he comes out and then his delivery is just all over the place, and he's just like
that weird face.
I think he was a professor at one point in his life. And oh my God, dude, I was crying laughing. That's a great one.
Dennis
Wolfberg.
I liked his material. I used to love, he used to do a routine about seeing a baby getting born. And it wasn't even that it was the greatest lines that he had, but if you combine it with how excited he would get with his face, he'd go, and I looked at it and it was a Smurf! She gave birth to a Smurf! It's like,
yes.
And I used to love that about him.
All right, so we'll go back and forth. So that's out of 5, that's one of them. And I'll counter that with Mitch Hedberg. Who I think was a great comedian who died before he could really peak. I don't believe he peaked at the stardom he could have obtained. The same with Wolfberg.
But I believe that, that's my dream introduction right there, You might have seen this next comedian on the David Letterman show. But I believe more people have seen me at the store.
I mean, I like Mitch Hedberg. I think that the reason why I chose Dennis Wolfberg is because I think people speak with reverence about Mitch Hedberg, and you could get a lot of his stuff, because Mitch Hedberg was popular by the time cable TV was popular. Dennis Wolfberg died before the boom of even cable TV, certainly before the internet.
That's a good point. I respect that. So then I will say we'll take Hedberg off the table, because I do agree with you on that. So then we'll say Mike DeStefano. Mike DeStefano was being groomed potentially to be like a tough crowd New York comic, one of those, Comedy Cellar comics. He was very raw, and he was a recovering drug addict, and he had AIDS, and his delivery was harsh.
I was watching a show a few weeks ago about a man who was convicted of murder. They found out through DNA that he was innocent. He did 12 years in prison. They let him out. They gave him $2 million. That's the fucking $2 million. If you put me in prison for a murder that I didn't commit, you should let me fucking murder someone. I want to be able to kill somebody when I get out.
Like, he had some funny bits that I don't think he could do today. You know what I'm saying? They were racy, they were on the edge, They were hilarious.
He had bits about having AIDS.
He had a lot of bits about that he had AIDS.
You guys remember when AIDS first started? Everyone blamed it on the gay people. That was terrible because we found out that it was the Jews.
Oh, wait a minute. I know who that is. He was on Last Comic Standing.
Yes, yeah. His claim to fame was Last Comic Standing, and he died shortly after. He died while he was preparing for.
He was like a muscular guy with short hair.
Yeah, like grayish hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah. So I believe he definitely died before he could have become something. I think he could have been right there with the Greg Giraldos of the world, and that whole the late great.
There's
Greg
a lot.
Giraldo.
There's a lot more comedians that I think died young or something. That I think because they died young, they're elevated above. I don't even think they're as good as people think they are. They're not that they're bad. It's just that I don't like some of them. You know, there's unfortunately we're only talking about stand-ups, and we're only talking. And a lot of times people talk about certain stand-ups like they were Christ or something like that, or messiahs, and I never see that as comparable. But
So let's finish this top 5, and then we could let's just. Then
my
follow
only
up.
one would be Wolfberg.
Really? So how about I name some off to you, and you tell me what you think. So right now we have Wolfberg. Combined, we'll put together this list, right? So we have Dennis Wolfberg, and then we have Mike DeStefano. Okay, so those two qualify. And then I also had like Freddy Prince. And I say that because this guy was one of the first comedians to break out of the Comedy Store and show the rest of the comedians and to show the world that there can be a sitcom and superstardom from the stage, from the stand-up stage.
It's like Chinese people intrigue me too because they're so quiet. They ain't so proud. They always had their homework a year ahead. They made everybody else look bad, you know, for tomorrow. I have that already.
And then he died too young. I think he was like in his early 20s when he killed himself because the fame from Chico and the Man, his TV show, was just too much to bear. But I think if he would have lived on, who knows what he could have become. I think today he would have probably been has-been like a Jimmy Walker.
You got the number right, because you are talking to Kid a Dynamite!
But he still was skyrocketing at that time.
Looking good, looking good, looking good.
What's your thoughts on
Okay.
Freddie? You have no opinion on Freddie?
No, not really. He's okay. Like, I mean, you don't really know. I wouldn't put him as a great comedian. He was a successful comedian, but who knows what he would have done.
He was one of the first real breakout stand-ups of the stand-up era, the 70s, like when the stand-up comedy club era, I should say. He was one of the first, like, that came out of the Comedy Store and all that stuff. I
like him better than Freddy Prince Jr.
Nice. Very nice.
Richard Jeni. What do you think of Richard Jeni?
But Richard Jeni was he was great, but he was very successful. Like I don't know, like what do you mean like died before their time, like that they didn't get recognition? Because he was very well recognized.
Well, not that they didn't get recognition, but that they never met their true stardom. I think like Richard Jeni had a movie in him.
Well, there's a lot of people, listen, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people who isn't Richard Jeni like the same time period as Bill Maher and who's the other person I'm thinking of? The fellow who played the head of the college in Nutty Professor.
Oh, I think I know you're talking about. He's a Long Island guy too. Larry Miller. You talking about?
Larry Miller. So
Yeah.
isn't like Larry Miller, Richard Jeni, they're the same time period?
Yeah.
So Larry Miller is alive and should be more famous.
My greatest accomplishment so far is having all 5 Planet of the Apes films on tape.
Robert Wool should be more famous.
But you know what happens when you've never had a winner? Never. When you've been the butt of every joke, when you get your chance, you make sure everybody knows about it, you know?
I like those guys too. I mean, just because Richard Jeni died, I mean, Richard Jeni died a millionaire, so I don't know how bad he had it.
All right,
I don't know. I don't know.
No,
I really don't know.
This is great. I'm going to keep this rolling because
To me, like the reason why I mentioned Dennis Wolfberg was because I thought Dennis Wolfberg was very unique, and he died before people don't even remember him. When I said that to you, probably didn't even consider him until I said that.
That's true. He was off my radar, but I always loved Dennis Wolfberg, and he is forgotten, unfortunately, by mainstream people. I think comedy.
And that would really, but the fact that he's forgotten would probably fall more into the criteria you're talking about than someone like Richard Jeni, who people know him, people know who he was.
But he's forgotten too.
He was very successful.
Yeah, he was. He may have been more successful than Wolfberg because I think he was in a couple movies, and he had his own sitcom.
Much more successful.
Yeah. But
he was in Vegas all the time. The guy was a millionaire.
Let me drag this out as long as I can. Let us read from the Epistle of an Apostle. Romans 7, Leviticus 3:25 or 6-4.
My next one here is Ralphie May. I think Ralphie May.
I never thought he was that big a deal. I thought he was big, but I never thought he was that big a deal. I thought he was kind of hacky.
I tell people that's where the term spick and span comes from. And look it up. Look it up. Because Mexicans are so clean. See? At first you think it's going to be a racial slur. Then it turns out to be a racial compliment. Now who's prejudiced?
Yeah, Ralphie May was like this overweight.
He was known for Last Comic Standing also.
Yeah, he
was on the one that Dat Fan won. The one that Rich Voss was on, the one that Dat Fan won.
Yeah.
Dat Fan is a guy who's basically forgotten. He won, and I don't know anybody who ever talks good about him or anything.
My father, he looks like Yoda smoking opium. He's like, Dak Fang just, young Jedi, Dak Fang.
He's still on the circuit too. He's
probably making a very good living. He's
Yeah.
probably making as much as Richard Jeni, not as much as Richard Jeni right now,
Right.
you know.
But Ralphie May, to me, was it? He was one of the few white comics who could win over a black room, in his time and all that. And I think that he.
Why? Because he was fat?
No, I think because he just talked. He just had that swagger.
The reason black people got caught and put into slavery is because white people grabbed them by their jug-handle earlobes. Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Listen, you're forcing me to badmouth a dead person. I thought he was whack.
The next one on my list here is Robert Schimmel.
Brilliant. I think Robert Schimmel, yeah, I would agree with you, because Robert Schimmel was probably a genius.
And I love my wife, she's so great, but the dog shits in the house. She asked the dog if he did it. The dog's never gonna answer her. She goes, "Did you shit over there?" I'm like, "No, honey, Aunt Rose shit in the kitchen."
Robert Schimmel was great. And Robert Schimmel had a horrible, I mean, he did it to a lot of the drama in his life he did to himself, but and he was an interesting guy. Like when I really got to know Robert, the first time I ever saw Robert Schimmel was on the Rodney Dangerfield special.
Yeah.
But when I really became a fan of Robert Schimmel was when he was a guest frequently on the Howard Stern show, and he would just talk about his messed up life and how he left his wife and then went with the daughter's girlfriend and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And a very interesting guy, very good take on things. He had a very good HBO special after he had one of his heart attacks that was really good. I think it's called Heart Attack or something like that. And Robert Schimmel was probably a genius.
I agree. I think he was a genius. I got to meet him a few times. He's a great guy, hilarious guy. This guy, one of the biggest ironies of the way he died was that he battled and beat cancer twice.
And then he died in a car accident.
He
right?
died while teaching his daughter how to drive. So it's almost like a comedic way to die. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like this guy who beats cancer twice and he dies. Like, hey, no, left, no, yes, stop, you know. And
something to look for that is very hard to find. I haven't been able to really find it. Howard Stern produced a pilot for him, that never aired. If we could find that,
Yeah.
I would love to see that the Robert Schimmel show.
Yeah.
His brother's a friend of mine on Facebook. His brother talks about him a lot. Robert Schimmel had one of my favorite jokes, and it's just a question. He goes, how do blind people know that when they're done wiping their ass? How do they know? How come nobody ever asks like Stevie Wonder that?
I think it's the, taste.
Boy, I'm glad. Here, you owe me $2. Here's 10.
So far we agree on 3, right? So we have your guy that you said
Wolfberg, Dennis Wolfberg.
Then we got Mike DeStefano, and now we have Robert Schimmel. So,
Well, you say Mike DeStefano. I'll go along with it. I mean, I don't.
well, he
I'm
fits
not-
the criteria more. Like he never really popped. He never really had a chance. He was probably lesser known than Wolfberg. He's probably, and I think he had a chance. I think he had, he was a prospect. He could have done it. I think he was that funny. And when you watch this episode, I'll put clips of him, and then you could, see what I'm talking about.
So I hear a black man say, I'm tired of the white man. Me too. Where is he? Let's get him. Kill Whitey. Kill Whitey.
Are you ready for my next one? And I'm curious your answer on this. I think I know, but we'll see. Bill Hicks.
He's one of the people I think are overrated, completely overrated. He's one of the people I think people talk about like he's Jesus, and I don't think his material holds up at all.
You know what, though? I find it ironic that people who are against things that cause sexual thoughts are generally fundamentalist Christians who also believe you should be fruitful and multiply. Isn't that weird? Don't you think they'd be for things that cause sexual thoughts? You know what I mean? Maybe even a centerfold in the Bible? I don't know. Miss Deuteronomy?
So when you watch Bill Hicks, you don't like. Is it that you just don't like that style of comedy? That kind of like.
I liked him when he was out. I first saw him on Rodney's special, the Rodney Dangerfield special, and we used to have the Scrambler, so you could steal HBO.
Oh
Remember?
yeah,
It was like
yeah, the
knob.
Scrambler.
Yeah. But we used to watch the Rodney Dangerfield specials, and now I have them all on DVD. But and I like some of his jokes, and I liked his HBO half-hour special, the One Night Stand half-hour special. But the more political and serious he got, the less funny he is. And it's the political serious stuff that people use to say that he's profound, but it's also the political serious stuff that isn't funny anymore.
Yeah, but he still has like some of his bits are still funny. I think held up, like when he talks about, do you really think Jesus wants to see a crucifix when he comes back?
Do you think when Jesus comes back, he ever wants to see a fucking cross?
So I think that premise still has legs.
Yeah, my favorite joke of his was that he liked to smoke cigarettes, so he said that the different warnings that are on the pack of the cigarettes, he said, some of them say birth defects and some of them say cancer. He goes, just don't get the one that says cancer. Get the box that says birth defects. He goes, what do I care? I can't have a baby. And he goes, like you see people trading their boxes. What do you have? I have throat polyps. You want? Okay, I'll take throat polyps.
That is my big fear in life, doing smoking jokes in my act, then showing up 5 years from now. Good evening, everybody.
Like, that's funny, but I think most of his stuff doesn't hold up well.
I think, yeah, I mean, and you could say that with a lot of early comics, like comedy is one of those things where some of it's time capsule, right? Like, but.
Well, a lot of it too, people love to take this so seriously, and that's the problem, because it's not supposed to be taken seriously. And the fact that he is sort of talked about in such a Messiah-like way, well, the material doesn't live up to that, It can never live up to that, because you have to understand, Dave Chappelle, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Jackie Vernon, Jackie Gleason, Red Skelton. They're all doing this. And none of them are more profound than the other. And when people try to say like Dave Chappelle's a great philosopher, no, he's not. He's a comedian. You want to add some seriousness that you're bringing your own baggage to. That's going to be the part about them that will be dated first and wear out first. It'll be the part that won't hold up in the future. You know? And so the problem with someone like Bill Hicks is that he's talked about in too much like he's the Autobot Matrix of Leadership or something, and it's just he's just a comedian. He's just, you know, he told jokes like somebody else. He didn't have some sort of better insight into the world. He was telling jokes. That's it.
So do you think that you lost favor with him because everybody else was feeling that way, and you're like, you know, and you're sitting there going, no, that's not, he's just a comedian, and then that kind of made you like him less, or do you not?
No, it was from revisiting him after a long time. I was like, you know, I used to laugh at this more, you know.
Do you think? You think comedians are important? You know what I mean? Like
I think they're worth $8. What do you mean important?
Like, do you
I'm
think,
a comedian, so I'm gonna say I'm important. So why would I? You know, what do you mean?
Do you think like comedy and throughout history is important? Do you think because they challenge the status quo, they challenge
this is the
society?
thing.
Like
comedy might be important. Comedy might be important for your feelings and for life and for feeling good. But I don't think comedy, by definition, challenges the status quo or anything like that. Comedy is broader than that. Like you're talking about one particular thing that somebody might say, you know.
Right, like even Carlin had dick jokes.
How does Rodney challenge the status quo? But I think he's funnier than Bill Hicks or Richard Pryor.
Right. So do you think there's a difference between a Carrot Top versus a Bill Hicks?
No. Why would I? I don't like when people do that. I used to do that when I was young. I used to go, oh, he props. But I love Gallagher. I think Gallagher's brilliant.
What does it do to let up?
No, that's what I'm trying to get to is that you think funny is funny. And that's cool. And then you have other, right. And I agree with that to a certain degree. I do think there's different genres of comedy, just like there are with music.
I think Carrot Top's funny. I mean, I might like one person more than the other. It has nothing to do with that. I don't think there's a such thing as this is the right way to be funny and this is the wrong way to be funny. And I don't think of, you know, there are people, some people you're conditioned also by the way society talks about people. Like you can't say, like I have said, and I'll still say it, Bob Hope's funnier than Richard Pryor. And my reasoning is that you don't have to know anything about Bob Hope to laugh at him. And Richard Pryor's stuff is so personal.
How about all those shows being canceled on TV? In all, 34 shows were canceled. It's the worst thing that's happened to television since Gentle Ben ate his acting coach.
All right, so we'll get back to the list here. And the list at hand, I have it, the late, great Patrice ONeal.
Patrice ONeal's great, but I don't know if, is he unsung? I mean, he died young, but people talk about him.
Men want to be alone, but we don't want to be by ourselves. Does that make sense at all?
I think that Patrice ONeal is more famous for the non-stand-up stuff he did.
Tough Crowd, Opie and Anthony, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. His stand-up's good. I like Elephant in the Room, but I really like his half-hour HBO special.
Black people really don't look at white people with like you're the oppressor anymore. It's just something we do. It's just like we like not liking white people, and white people like not liking us. It's like that's just what we do. It's just.
And there's a few other ones, but then after a while, when you look at the clips, you see that he's doing a lot of the same material. But yeah, now I didn't watch Tough Crowd really when it was on. I watched it later on, and now every episode is on YouTube, and I can fall down a wormhole of just watching it.
Oh,
and
so good.
My favorite ones are the ones with Patrice, because he'll take over, and it doesn't matter what the subject they're talking about is, because then he'll just make fun of other guys in the room.
Don't tell me to fix the cop. Why is Bilbo Baggins continue to insult me here? Somebody tell John C. Reilly to shut his face. Yeah, right.
And I like that a lot. I like that type of stuff, you know, and you would think something like that might be worth $8.
Yeah, I think Patrice was a brilliant stand-up, and like you said, I don't think he gets enough credit for his stand-up.
Finish the story. Who got shot? Never mind now. You won't let me tell the story the way I want to tell the story, so I won't finish because you won't let me tell it with Diane, my friend who doesn't like guns and stuff.
I think, I think, like you said, most people know him from who he is, from Tough Crowd, from Opie and Anthony, and all of those, his interviews. They know him for who he is, not really for his stand-up. But I do think he also died too young. He's 41 years old when he died. I think had he lived on, he could have been the Chappelle. He would have been the important comedian. That's what I think.
See, you just said it there, the important.
Well, I said that as a play. Yeah, I said that on purpose.
Think about it. A few years ago, everybody was saying that about Louis C.K., and then it turned out he was a jerko.
More of me.
And it turned out he's whack, but in front of people. But yeah, I don't know. Patrice was great. I don't. Yeah, okay. If you want to put Patrice on that list, I just don't think he was unsung. Out of all the ones you're mentioning, I think the one who deserved it the most is the one I said, Dennis Wolfberg, because he was really great and nobody even remembers him.
No, I agree with you. I think Dennis Wolfberg definitely deserves to be on the list, as do, in my opinion, the others. So just to recap, I think we're going for 5 that we agree on, right? So far we have, I'm trying to get it in the camera. So far we have Dennis Wolfberg, Mike DeStefano, and then we also had Robert Schimmel, then Bill Hicks. Which
I disagree, but okay.
Okay, so we'll go 3, and now do we agree on Patrice for 4?
The criteria is that they were unsung.
Yeah, the criteria is that they died
because
before.
I think Patrice was very successful, and no one has ever stopped talking about him. And I think the same is true of Bill Hicks. I think he's more famous in death. There's like a lot of people like Lenny Bruce. Most of Lenny Bruce's materials doesn't hold up anymore.
But to me, she was so petty. Sometimes I wish that she were dead. But it'd probably take her 2 hours to get ready.
It's the fact of him that people talk about. Oh, Lenny Bruce,
Yeah, if you watch Lenny Bruce stand up now, it's not funny. You kind of got to put yourself in the mindset of someone in the 1950s.
And I feel the same about Hicks. A lot of the stuff he was doing was about politics. There was a lot of stuff he did about George Bush and Republicans and stuff like that he did for a while. My favorite joke I'll tell you something about one of my favorite jokes about Bill Hicks. And this might be from one of those HBO specials he did, or the half-hour special. And he kind of said, he was talking about how commercials they're never about the product that they're trying to sell. Because you'll see like some sexy lady and it'll be like a gum commercial or something. So he goes in the future, the commercials are just going to be, you see some lady, pan out, she's spread naked, she's touching a pussy, and you just see, drink Coke.
Yeah, that's a great. Another one I think this guy fits, does not fit the criteria, but then again, I think he kind of does because we know who he is. But anyway, it's John Panette.
The fat dude?
Yeah, he died when he was 50 years old.
Right.
And
he was a funny guy. Yeah, I thought he was funny.
Yeah, John Panette.
I like him better than Ralphie May.
Tried Indian food. Have you been out for Indian food? Yeah.
Bring a sandwich.
and he was a veteran of comedy. Like Ralphie May was a guy who came on and won a contest or was in a contest.
Right.
You know, whereas you know, the
John
other
Panette.
fellow, John Panette, was around for a long time.
John Panette was around for a long time. He had a couple of tastes of success with. He was on that show Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
He ate a lot.
$9.95, all you can eat. We'll see who wins this friggin' handout, won't we?
The man was. What did he die of? He burst.
Embolism. But he was on Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Do you remember that show? He was on that. He was the gym teacher, and his stand-up, dude. That guy had me crying. Literally.
He's the central plot point in the finale of Seinfeld.
Yep. Yes. Yep. He was in Seinfeld and all that. But he's one of those, to me, still an unsung guy. He's the guy that people might know his face, they don't know his name, but everybody knows the one bit. You know, whether they heard it through somebody.
4 hour.
4 hour. You've been here 4 hours. You go now. You don't eat vegetable.
You go now. You here 4 hour. Why you here 4 hour? You not come here anymore. Why you have spare rib? You so big. Eat vegetable. Eat broccoli.
Yeah, okay. I'd put him on there, yeah.
Okay, so he's at number.
And only one fat dude, so get Ralphie May off of there.
Ralphie May's off the list. So far, if I can remember the list, I should have wrote this down. Dennis Wolfberg, Mike DeStefano. Then we have Robert Schimmel, and now at fourth place there, John Panette. Now the fifth one.
Well, you said Patrice. You don't want to include Patrice.
Oh yeah, Patrice ONeal. So then John Panette. So we have all five.
Oh great.
But maybe I can find someone because you think Patrice was already famous. Like you think he already met the criteria. Because we're looking.
It sounds awful because I'm like going, this dead guy is not dead enough for me. This is not good, you know. But the reason why I put Wolfberg was he's the one who came to mind right away because and you have to admit you didn't even know, you weren't even thinking about him when I said that.
Dennis Wolfberg was off the radar for sure.
And everybody else on your list was much more recent and much more well known and still talked about. Dennis Wolfberg died before the digital age.
Right, and he's not remembered or regarded. Which sucks because he was very famous, not very famous, very funny. He was very funny, and I remember his stand-up special. Man, he had me like literally belly laughing, crying where I couldn't breathe from that special. And like you said, it was all in the delivery.
And what is it? Do you have any other lists? You want me to like who's worth $8, who's not worth $8?
Well, there you have it, folks. That's our top 5 comedians who died before their time. I would like to see your top 5 in the comments below. And if we've missed anybody or overlooked any notable comedians that should be worthy of the list, please let us know in the comments. And again, remember, please subscribe and like. And we will see you next time.